Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato.
Here.
Councilmember Bash.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Councilmember Stefanowicz.
Here.
Councilmember Zinna.
Yes, here.
Mayor Rustin.
Here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes. May the 3rd, the work session. May the 10th, the regular meeting. May the 10th, the closed session. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Revisions to the agenda? Okay. Public comment, anybody that would like to address the governing body on any items, whether or not it's on the agenda today? Now's the time for public comment. If anybody would like to be recognized, raise your hand, come up to the microphone and just state your name and street address for the record.
I'm Daniel Kornfeld, 79 Buff Road. Just briefly, I grew up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. My mother would tell me, "Well, we play, be back by then."
Keep it to the mic.
please.
And this is what I wanted for my children. So I moved to Tenafly 53 years ago. Where I live, 79 Buff Road, excuse me, and this was my business, that's terrible. It's a dead-end street, and I'm located 4 houses from the dead end. The plot map I got at that time showed a 10-foot right-of-way that was on the east part of my property, and I have that map here. I subsequently found out there was an endemic water problem in the area, and when the town came to me and said they needed my permission to put a sewer line across the rear of my property to relieve my neighbors, and then they would put an exit pipe on the town right-of-way which existed there. It's on the map I got. And wanting to be a good neighbor, I agreed. I assumed they would be accurate in running their lines, and when the construction was completed, I saw an ugly sewer cover on what I thought was their land, but it looked like it was on my lawn. When I asked why it wasn't in the street where it belonged, at least where I thought it belonged, I was told traffic. Being 4 hours from a dead end, I wondered how much traffic there was. Anyway, I've lived with this for over 3 decades. A couple years ago, a tree from the right-of-way came down, almost came down on my house, and the town came and removed it. This year, a tree came down in the back and broke part of my fence that I have there. The Kynes, my next door neighbors, and I called Public Works several times, and I was eventually contacted by Mr. Covert. He said he needed another survey. Now, I have a survey copy here, so I wondered why they needed another survey. But they didn't. Subsequently, a new survey was instituted. Lo and behold, I believe the tree is on town property, if the right-of-way is town property. But the sewer line to the street is not. That's definitely on my property. So I respectfully request immediate removal of the sewer line and cover from my land. Secondly, we should investigate town payment for illegal use of my property. And thirdly, the town should start servicing the trees on that right-of-way, as I can never remember that they were ever serviced, and they have grown drastically in the 50 years I've been here. Now, I have professional tree service by Murtaugh, who is a complete tree service, New Jersey certified tree expert, has been servicing my trees for the whole time I've lived there. Never once has Tenafly looked at any of the trees on their property. And I think it should be taken care of. Thank you.
What's the address again, please? Anybody else care to speak? Please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Joy Cronenwet at 45 Magnolia Avenue in Tenafly. My mother owns this house. I reside with her. And I'm just here this evening just to make you all aware that approximately a month ago, and I'm going to share some photographs. There were, there were 2 trees that were surgically removed by Public Service and then subsequently by the Department of Public Works of Tenafly. We were not notified of this need for these trees to come down, and when we called the borough, we were informed that it was in fact Public Service's decision to remove these trees, secondary to their hindering some of the power lines in front of 45 Magnolia, which is part of the historic district of Tenafly. So the first issue of concern is that A, we were not notified, and B, the neighbors directly to the south side of our property had trees that looked like they were also hindering power lines. However, those trees were not severed surgically to the degree that our trees were. They were essentially just primed. So I just want to let you know of that. My twin sister, Gail, did speak directly with Bob. There was a little hesitation to actually get the trees replaced, which we had requested. However, the trees were actually just replaced today, and we're very grateful for that. But I just wanted to voice my concern in terms of the fact that we were not notified, and that these people just essentially showed up on our property and removed these trees.
Were the trees healthy?
Yes, they were.
So there was no...
Public Service often does not notify us when they're doing these things, which is unfortunate, but reality. What I will do is I will ask a representative from Public Service to give you a call.
Okay.
If you could leave your contact information with the borough clerk, I'll do that, because the... Okay.
Who cut the trees, the Public Service or the DPW?
Public Service did the initial cutting.
They trimmed the trees.
Right.
But
Really,
who cut it down?
it was DPW,
So
Tenafly
DPW
DPW.
cut it down, the Public Service just trimmed it.
Right.
Okay.
No, wait, stop, hold on a second. Did Public Service just trim the tree and then our DPW cut the rest of the tree down?
Correct.
And for what reason did they do that? Was it dwarfed in such a way that it had to be cut down?
I
because
honestly-
Public Service generally just does trimming.
No, they severed the trees. I mean, the limbs were still there, but it was.
Well, we need to get an explanation from
Yeah.
our DPW. They were borough trees. I can see by the fact that they're so close to the curb that they were borough trees in front of your home. We'll find out why the DPW took them down.
Excuse me, all we did was remove the stumps.
Right.
The trees were removed by PSE&G's contractor. DPW removed the stumps.
Right, the lower part
Okay,
of the
so
tree, but it was.
Obviously, you didn't want the stumps to stay there, and the trees have been replaced, correct?
Correct, yes.
So really, the end result of this exercise is that you really should be contacted by Public Service.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There was somebody up in the back with, all right, you want to speak, and then you can be next.
Thank you. Good evening. Michael Greeley, 158 River Edge Road. Tonight I'm here to speak on behalf of the PBA Local 376. Before I begin, I just want to thank all the friends and family and neighbors that came out today to support us. We stand here tonight in solidarity, along with our families, friends, and neighbors, to demand your attention and action in resolving our contract dispute. For too long, the men and women of the police department have trusted in the collective want of settling our contract amicably, and this hope has been spent. We stand before you beleaguered and even angry. Along with the other borough workforces we've shared in 3 years of stalled or no raises, we've watched as our benefits have decreased, as once concrete promises were defaulted on. We watched while our medical payments increased sometimes 24 times our original obligation, contributions that represent a significant cost savings to the borough and a significant liability for the employees. We also began paying an increased 1.5% of our salaries towards our pension to help subsidize the borough's obligation to the state. For a period of 3 years, we have given up or given back to the borough. These losses have tested our resolve, but we carried on out of necessity, out of duty, to the borough, to our families. 3 years of losses have challenged us financially and professionally, and now we've entered into another nearly 6 months without a contract, without the hope of settling in the foreseeable future. We're a deflated workforce. We feel undervalued, demoralized, and even maligned. Collectively, we have watched while this once great police department has diminished under your watch. The employees of the police department and all the borough employees are not simply numbers on a spreadsheet. We are fathers and husbands, wives and mothers. We are friends and neighbors, and perhaps most important to you, we're the stewards of this community. We contribute to the quality of life here and are a pillar of its prosperity. New residents choose Tenafly because of its strong schools and because it's a safe community. Our police force has ensured our residents' safety 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We've stood watch during birthdays, holidays, during the fiercest of storms, and under some of the worst conditions imaginable. But we never faltered in our charge. We've served the borough well, and until recently, we felt appreciation for our efforts and sacrifices. This is no longer true. More than anything else, we feel the borough leadership has ignored the human element and the effect that their policy has delivered on the workers of our town. We deserve fair treatment and raises. It's imperative that the borough leadership treats all employees with dignity and respect. It is also imperative that you take swift action to address these concerns and to see to it that the employees of the borough are not marginalized and taken for granted any longer. The role that we play in this community is vital, and the longer we go without a contract, the more challenging it becomes to retain the high level of service that we are used to providing and the community is accustomed to receiving. We are not robots. We are susceptible to this. We are affected by this. Together we must move forward, and it starts with fair negotiations. Other communities have been able to settle contracts fairly with their employees, yet Tenafly seems unable or unwilling to do so. The town stands to lose one of its greatest assets if nothing is done, and personally I fear for what the future holds if we cannot find common ground. I urge you all to reconsider your position and treat us with the respect and appreciation we deserve. We ask that you come back to the negotiating table to settle this contract. Thank you.
Anybody else care to speak? Please.
Mark Somerville, 9 Tenafly Road. Thank you for letting me address you tonight. I also wish to speak about the issue with the police, DPW, and other borough workers. I've been a manager and an employer for 24 years, and I've had to learn many times over that being right is not enough to make a business work. We set aside feelings and deal with realities to get needed conclusions. The reality for the Tenafly police and municipal workers includes recent major retroactive changes to their pay and benefits. Concurrently, significant equipment problems exist, such as substandard police radios, which can compromise officers in the field. Were my hospital or most any business to make such changes, we would expect critical problems in morale and performance. Although this is common sense, and how many of us would accept such changes from our own employer, it's borne out in research. A 2006 study of New Jersey police departments that spanned 18 years by Alexander Moss of the University of California's Haas School of Business found that police performance declines sharply when officers lose arbitrations. After arbitration lost, arrest rates and average sentence length decline and crime reports rise. These declines are larger when the awarded wage is further from the police union's demand. This study and others make clear that considerations of fairness and disappointment affect workplace behavior for police officers. We can demand that officers do their jobs and be thankful that they have them, but reality makes clear that the quality of our lives will suffer. Winning an arbitration is not good enough. Similar studies in public education and the production of Firestone tires show more meaningful negative effects of settlements experienced as unjust by the workers. Welcome to Tenafly. It's a great place to live. This is posted on the 2016 Borough Newsletter. This town rightly considers itself an exclusive and desirable location with quality borough services, also a quote. History and research tell us that we should expect our borough services to suffer from this point forward. This is a step towards making us as substandard as the radios our officers currently use. Despite an arbitrator's ruling 3 years ago and the appeals that have followed, it is a destructive and paradoxic message to this community and the municipal workers to use this decision. We ask our police officers and municipal workers to serve us in good faith. It's now up to us to act in good faith as well. Thank you for letting me speak.
Is there anybody else? Please. No, go ahead.
No, he's just walking around.
Mr. Fake.
Hi, my name is Erin Leibowitz of 15 Pilgrim Court, and my father is here to speak on my behalf.
Mayor Rustin and members.
Sir, your name and address, please.
Bruce Pfeffer. I live in Potomac, Maryland. My daughter lives at 15 Pilgrim Court. And she has asked me to speak in her behalf. My ties to Tenafly go back very far. My wife moved to Tenafly in 1957, and her parents owned a home for many years. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live in Tenafly, and Tenafly is like a second home. When I heard about the issues with the police contract, I felt very behooved on a personal level to come and give a very personal story of which reflects the excellence, perseverance of your police force. In November 2014, Thanksgiving Day, my family and I gathered at my daughter's house on Pilgrim Court. 45 minutes as into the time when people were arriving, I had a very traumatic incident of choking on a piece of meat. My son, who is an interventional cardiologist, my son-in-law, a gastroenterologist, and my daughter's brother-in-law, who was a former football player from Yale University, worked on me with the Heimlich method. Most of the time I was cyanotic. I had a sense that I had about 45 seconds to live. And at this time, I really cannot give you a memory of what happened, but I do know what happened. And that is that the two members of your police force, Lieutenant Lawrence, and I have to say this correctly because it's not an easy name, Lieutenant Lou Samaradakis. Can I call him Lou? It'll be easier. Okay. As I understand it, Lou worked on, Lieutenant Lawrence worked on me first. But with the Heimlich method, one has to continue with their strength. Otherwise, you will lose the patient. I know this as I am a physician myself. As Lieutenant Lawrence began to tire, Lou took over. And then Lieutenant Lawrence, as reported to me, said to himself, he could not let me die in front of my family. And after about 50 Heimlich methods performed, Lieutenant Lawrence was able to dislodge the piece of meat, and I was able to breathe. The paramedics were there, and they took me to England Hospital, where I was admitted overnight. And within 10 minutes, both officers were at my bedside to see how I was doing and to console me from this near-death experience. As we all know, when we employ people, they can do a job. And that is what they will do. On a personal basis, these two gentlemen, who I do believe represent your police force, went 150% beyond what was their job. They were compassionate, well-trained, and they would do nothing before saving my life. This is an invaluable group of people that makes Tenafly a safe place that draws people to want to live here. As a father and a grandfather of two children who live here, and with my own personal experience, I feel indebted and grateful and feel lucky to have my daughter live in a community that has such a police force. And in hearing about the negotiations that are going on, I felt that it was my duty to give you a personal story, which I'm sure can touch each of you, both in your heart and in your cognitive senses. I thank you for this time.
Thank you, sir. Please. I'm sorry, you're going to have to go outside. If you want to talk with folks or wait till
sorry,
after.
Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Dan Siegel, 67 Wildwood Drive. For those of you that don't know me, I was a police officer in Tenafly for 25 years, the last 13 as a lieutenant. During my 10 years as a police officer in the town, I was in charge of 2 contract committees, and I was on 2 additional committees that spanned more than half my career. During that time, the Tenafly Council never negotiated in good faith. It got to the point where the council even signed a memorandum of agreement and refused to ratify the contract. Nationally, police have taken a pretty big hit in the United States. Statewide, they've had to have an increased pension contribution. We've had to pay into our health care. And locally, they haven't had a raise for 3 years. Longevity's been frozen. And these have been very dramatic financial hits that the police have taken. If you were writing a story on how to destroy the morale of the police department, this council has written the bestseller. Thank you.
Good evening, Peter, council. My name's George Presson. I live at 1 Hastings Drive. Sorry, I moved. I've been a Tenafly resident for over 30 years. Over these 30 years, if you know me, I've been very involved with the youth athletics, the high school athletics. I've been a big supporter of Tenafly, both financially and emotionally. The one thing I don't get involved with is politics. I don't like politics. But when I see something that's being done wrong, I have to say my piece. I'm just a businessman who has common sense. I would say for 80 to 100% of the people that are here today and that live in Tenafly, our biggest asset is our house and our land. When we want to retire, that's what we look forward to, our house and our land. So what brings younger couples to move into Tenafly? Years ago, it was 2 things. 1, the educational system, which was great, and 2, the security. Nowadays, in my opinion, because of what's going on around us, which I'll explain in a minute. It's the security and then the education. Okay, what do I mean by security? We read in the local papers, there a house broken into, there's cars stolen, and I could go on, and I'm not going to get serious with bomb scares at the schools, terrorism, which we have by our next-door neighbors, but it's only common sense. You got to have the best security you can. How do you have the best security? I'm an advocate. I've been an advocate. Peter, I've supported you for 4 terms. And I told you, the most important thing is the police, okay? That's what brings people here, for security. They hear problems in our time, they're not going to move here. And everybody's going to lose on what the real estate value is. Okay, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, that's how I am, that's how I deal. Okay? Now basically, a few years ago, we didn't deal in good faith. How Tenafly could bring in an outside counsel to negotiate for our problems with the police is bullshit. I don't know how much you spent on the outside counsel, but you have attorneys here who represent us, and they know what our problems are, they know what exists. Forget Democrat, Republican, Independent. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I only think what's right is fair, okay? And what's fair is you deal in good faith. What's in good faith? We want the best security you can have. If you people don't understand it, I don't understand it. I'm going to be out of here soon. I put 8 children through the educational system at Tenafly, okay? And I'm going to tell you something. You know, you start hearing certain problems, you're going to devaluate the biggest asset we all have, okay? You have to deal in good faith. That's all I care about. I'm here to deal in honesty and good faith. You know, from past years, I don't get involved with politics. I don't like politics. I warned you many years ago what would happen if you don't upgrade the fields. Taxpayers are going to pay. I can only give you an example. You're not going to like it, but I'm going to tell you to. I owned a private aviation company, the Rolls-Royce of the industry, okay? And we had the best. And when you have the best in the business, everybody follows you. McDonald's is here, Burger King comes here, etc. And basically, everybody followed us. And I had the leading salesman who had a big client. And the client said, you know what, I'm going to Colorado, round trip, I could save $5,000 round trip by going to another client. My salesman said, don't forget, when you're going down on that airplane, you tell your wife, I saved $10,000 on this trip. And I'm going to tell you this, okay? Because they use inferior planes, inferior pilots, etc. How much would anybody pay in this town to not wake up and find out there's a stranger in their house when they have little children, okay? It's going to be too late then. There's going to be a stranger in the house, and you don't want him in your house. You got to deal in good faith, and you don't bring in outside counsel to deal in good faith. You got a lot of attorneys. I volunteer myself as a Donald Trump arbitrator, mediator, no money, to deal in good faith to work out a fair contract. Tony, I've known you for 30 years. You know me from those days. Will I deal in good faith? You know me. You know what I tried to do. And I want to do something that's fair for everybody. I'm going to be out of here. I'm telling you, in 10 years, you're going to say the same thing you said 10 years ago. The guy, this schmuck was right. Okay? He warned us, and he said it right. That's my piece. I hope you deal in good faith, guys. They all deserve it. We owe it to them. You got to give them the best deal there is. Don't bring in outside counsel. You're going to pay an arm and a leg for outside counsel. You don't need it. Give it to the police department.
there anybody else that cares to speak? Please.
Gloria Lane, 64 North Lyle Avenue. My husband, Alan, was the former chief, and for almost 40 years. I know what the police have gone through. I know what they go through every day. I know that some of them have been mad at me at times because I've been mad at them, but...
Keep shouting, man.
See, he's here. Alan is here. Move the mic. But seriously, to allow the police to go 3 years without without a raise was really unconscionable. Tony, you grew up in this town. I grew up in this town. We know what the police have given to this town. And this department today gives as much as any member of any department throughout the years. So I agree with you. We need the security, and we need our police to feel good about coming to work and about continuing to serve our people. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would care to speak? Then I'll close the public comment section. I would like to just say a few words, and I'm sure that they may not be greeted with admiration or pleasure, but I would hope that you show me the same courtesy that we showed you in listening to what you had to say. The word that disturbs me the most that was thrown around on a regular basis the last few minutes was good faith. Okay. I believe there's a significant amount of misinformation that was put out tonight. A number of people mentioned 3 zeros, and you're right. Our police force did not deserve 3 zeros. And before I go any further, let me say that regardless of how these negotiations go, it's not a reflection on our feelings of our police force. It's an outstanding force, probably one of the best in the state. And we know that, and these negotiations do not reflect our opinion of the force. We get criticized for bringing in a professional labor attorney, but that's what we were dealing with all these years. The PBA brings in an attorney that works statewide for various PBAs across the state. And believe me, in his prime, he was not outgunned by anybody that we would bring in. So I don't think it's that poor a decision, the governing body, to bring in a professional labor attorney. As far as the 3 zeros are concerned, I think you need to look at your leadership, because it was not our intention to give you 3 zeros 3 years ago. It was not our proposal. This came about because of the way the arbitrator read your stance, the PBA stance, and our stance. We were prepared to give you raises 3 years ago. We're prepared to give you raises this year. Unfortunately, there's something known as a 2% cap. Now, I know there are towns that go beyond the 2% cap. I'm not going to ignore that. But the reality of it is we also have a fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers. We would like to work with you in good faith. Your leadership came to us and said, let's sit down and try and work this out without attorneys. And in good faith, we met and we sat down and talked. Proposals were sent to us that I don't believe the PBA even understood the proposals they were presented to us. If they did, they pretended to ignore the consequences of them. And then, without warning, a grievance was filed. A grievance that required attorneys. And that was after we were told we were going to talk without attorneys. So now this grievance must run its course, because the end result of the grievance is the starting point of new negotiations. To negotiate before this grievance is resolved makes absolutely no sense at all. So we tell you now, and I will stand by that we want to negotiate with you in good faith. We want to give you a raise, but you have to understand, you have to make a proposal and explain to us the impact of that proposal. To give us a number and not appreciate the impact of that number is not a fair proposal. It's not good faith. We have done that, and we were prepared to continue to negotiate, but instead we ran into this grievance. So like I said, it's not that we don't appreciate what we believe is one of the best, if not the best, police forces in the state. It's not that we want morale to be low. We spent money on a brand-new police station, which I think improves your quality of work, your atmosphere of work. We said, we gave you...
We didn't want it.
That's not what we were told. We gave you a 12-hour shift because that's what you wanted. It really didn't benefit us at all. That's what you wanted. So it's not that we...
What we work 8 or 12. It has no effect on you guys. None.
We gave you what you wanted. And as far as
We're going to be criticized for that, and it's going to be held against us.
we're not criticizing
I've got
anybody.
a step increase. I have a house. I'm making less money now than I am 2 years ago. When is this nonsense going to end? You're lying right through your teeth to everybody with what you're saying.
Excuse me, but I'll stand behind everything I just said, and I can pick apart a number of the comments that were made earlier. So don't tell me that I'm lying. And by the way, I gave you the courtesy of listening to you, and I guess I can't get that same courtesy in return. You talk about good faith.
You're going to start losing your officers.
Well, if you can find a better place to work, that's how the system works.
Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I'll deal with it. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato.
Yes.
Councilmember Bash.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz.
Yes.
Councilmember Zina.
Yes. Yes. Oh.
He abstained.
Oh, excuse me. Yes on all except for R16-204, which I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Which one is that?
Next, before I go to public hearings, is Rebecca here? All right, come on up to the front. Some time ago, the New Jersey League of Municipalities notified us of their annual essay contest, a statewide contest. After tonight, what my municipal government does best was the theme. High school seniors from all across the state entered this contest, and I'm pleased to announce that we have one of the 3 winners, which includes a check for a scholarship check for $1,000, which I'm going to present to Rebecca now and congratulate her for writing the winning essay.
Take a picture with Rebecca too.
Right, okay. Public hearings.
Yes, the following ordinances were published herewith and first read by title only on May 10, 2016, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the Municipal Center. Ordinance number 16-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Section 40.1.B.5B of the Revised General Code of the Borough of Tenafly, regulating the use of municipal parking lot F. Ordinance number 16-09, an ordinance repealing ordinance 08-25, creating a special improvement district and deleting Chapter 29 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly.
Public comment on this particular ordinance? Please call the roll.
I need a motion and a second.
Mark, you want to read the motion?
Sure, I make a motion to pass ordinances 16-08 and 16-09 on second and final reading, and adopt the same, and notice the same shall be published according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato? Oh, he stepped out. Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. Committee reports. Paul, you have anything?
The HPC is offering the Centennial Circus Sign promotion to the Railroad Avenue businesses that form the backdrop of the historic railroad station. It's a program they introduced through the newsletter a couple of years ago. While it's not a designation, if a building buys and puts up one of these signs, it creates awareness that this group of buildings have been important to the town for so long. The Welcome Committee met last week, and they have a busy month. They're preparing for the early September new resident gathering that they've had for the last few years, which has been very successful. They already have the mailings ready. They're creating a mission statement because they'd like to use a website to help draw volunteers to their organization, and they feel that a mission statement will help the committee stand out better.
I want to congratulate you. I don't know how many of you saw the Northern Valley Press, but it was a great article, and I think you and Alice Rigney, our historian, deserve a lot of the credit for it, but it was very well written. I found it very interesting, as well as the picture, which was of the Presbyterian Church, and which was very timely because their 150th anniversary took place just last week. Max, you have anything?
Yeah, the Senior Citizens Committee met yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they received on Friday the comments regarding the bus, and they didn't have a chance to answer, so they're going to go and look at that, and they will have a special meeting on the 6th of June. At the same time, they basically said that they want to move forward as soon as possible with the bus, so the process of buying the bus can start immediately because it takes 6 to 8 months to get the bus. So during that time, you can pretty much finalize all the requirements, the policies, and everything else, because that can be done over the time while the bus is in progress of being acquired. Also, they would like very much to finish, and they're going to be finishing the description of the administrator for the senior I don't even know, senior administrator. Coordinator, okay. And give it to Jules so we can immediately start publishing that position. And of course, Gloria and other people have volunteered to be part of the interview team for this coordinator. At the same time, Ms. Joyce Kalman from the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Senior Center was at the meeting, and they were very much, she used the word even frightened by the fact that right now, unfortunately, Julie is so sick, and she cannot be coming to the center, and Becky is by herself. And if something happened to Becky, or if Becky goes out for lunch, or if there is something that, that the entire center now is almost hostage to her being present over there. And they would like to know if help can be brought up, somebody that has medical, specifically CPR, knowledge in case something happened to the senior people, because over 100 senior people are seeing that coming to the center every day. So that's very important. I talked to Julian. Hopefully we're going to put it on the next meeting agenda to start looking at what we can do to bring somebody over there to help. I hope I covered all the points, and that's it.
Thank you. Just want to mention that last week I attended a steering committee meeting for the first annual Bergen County Care Services Fair. Just to read the description that they gave us: a one-stop for everything you need to know about care options for seniors, children, veterans, and those with special needs. I think it's going to concentrate primarily on seniors, however. Right now it's scheduled to take place next April, significant lead time, on a Sunday at the Hasbrook Heights Hilton. and they got people from all over the county structure, the Housing Authority, the Senior Housing Services, Division of Community Development, Division of Human Services, County Board of Social Services, Office of Public Information, people like the Vantage Health System were recommended there, Division of Disability Services, Bergen County United Way was there, Rebuilding Together, Bergen County. So it was a very interesting group of people, and like I said, it's 11 months away, but this is going to be an interesting project, and I know, Gloria, you'll probably get involved in it one way or the other, but they're going to be trying to do what we're doing on a local scale on a county scale, and I think that bodes well for us, so I found it very interesting. Mark, you have anything?
No reports this evening, Mayor.
Dan?
No reports.
Okay. There's no old business under new business. Somebody want to make a...
There is a, for the good of the order.
No, we're not there yet. Relax, we're going to do the new business first. Dan, you want to read it?
What am I doing? I don't have it in front of me.
Paul, you have it?
I move to adopt Resolution 16-207, which is confirmed issuance of refunds for the Special Improvement District.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Okay, now Max, we have
Yeah.
four items, you left.
4 items, I'm gonna go quick through them.
Well, we're only going to discuss whether we want to put them on an agenda.
Yes, and we're gonna discuss why, to see if people wanna put them on the agenda. So first of all is the business parking permits. Jill has made a basically presentation of what we have today for the business parking permits. But there are many businesses that have more than seven people that work for them. And we need to be able to accommodate those businesses, and we have to find a way. So I think that we should look at this, and we should look at the business now and parking as an overall solution, because we have a problem. With the advent of the Grand Union or Stop and Shop reopening, they're going to start having a tougher position on the commuters that are parking over there. I personally,
don't want to get into depth of this.
I need to understand, people have to understand why I want to discuss this.
Well, I think we understand.
Okay.
I would even go to say, I certainly agree it needs to be discussed.
Okay.
So let's just
At-
put it
at
on
length,
the agenda.
Okay, then I'll put it on the agenda and with
I'd like
that.
to wait until we have that parking study. It should be done within the next couple of weeks, and then we can take this up, okay?
Yeah, because it's an
Okay,
issue.
we'll put it, well, we cannot wait so long,
Why?
because I was over there in the parking lot Thursday, and I was trying to get something from CVS, the parking lot was full. I parked at the Stop and Shop. 5:41, the bus came in, 3 people came off the bus, got into the parking lot at the CVS, took their car and moved away.
Well, that's enforcement.
Well, that's, I'm saying, it's a overall, we need to understand how many people that have businesses that need the parking, then make sure that we enforce it, and make sure that we understand basically what we need to do for the, because it's overrun by commuters. So it's a whole thing that we need to do. Yeah, I'm talking about CVS, which is ours. 3 people from the bus came in and took the cars from the CVS.
We're gonna discuss it.
Okay.
The next
This-
item, I think, was covered.
Was covered, the other one, okay. The Tenafly same cup, I think that we need to start looking at it. Basically, we have that area, and we need to do a study to understand, can something be built? If it cannot be built, let's try to transform it into a park and do something with that area, because but the more it stays like that, the more it becomes a nuisance.
Well, you're on a committee for a community center.
Yeah.
You want to do a community center or a park?
We don't know the community, but we need to understand, can something be built? If it cannot be built, a study, then we have to turn it into a park, because if the community cannot be built. So the whole idea is, let's discuss what kind of a structure can or cannot be supported over there.
Do you folks want?
I make a comment, Max, only because when we first initially started having a conversation about the community center, we had invited the borough, and this is a year ago or so, we had a committee meeting, and you weren't at that meeting.
No.
And we did bring the borough engineer in to kind of just say, hey, what could be built here? Can you build
That's right.
something here? And he said, yes, things could be built, and he talked about that in a general sense. Perhaps because part of, we've talked about this a little bit, when we have our community center report, which we hope we're going to have on our first steps, we will have that in June. And one of the next steps will be to bring the engineer back in to
Yeah.
talk about the specifics. So maybe we tie that all in at the same time?
I'm okay with that.
You're good with that?
Put
Okay.
it together, fine.
All at the same time.
Okay, then the last thing is that we have problems with the trees in the town, and we know that. I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Well,
We
no,
have,
no, you want to make an opinion, that's fine, but don't say there's problems in the town.
okay, we have a problem with people, not people, power, electric, cutting our trees. They're not entitled to cut our trees.
They are, you don't seem to understand the law.
Okay,
You can't let
they
that get in
can
the way.
trim them. They can trim them. They cannot cut the trees.
The tree was dead, which is why.
No, the trees were not dead.
Excuse me, Max.
Excuse me.
The tree was dead.
No, they were not.
Which is why they trimmed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What are you basing your opinion on?
We had a lady that owned the trees, came over here and said, I had 2 live trees that were cut down.
Is she an arborist?
Excuse me, that we don't have to be an arborist to know if it's a tree is not dead or not. If the tree says leaves, it's alive.
PSC&G's mission is not to cut down trees.
And we want to make sure
They
that.
only have their contractors remove trees when the trees are initially scheduled for trimming, but they turn out to be dead trees.
Peter? Let's have a comment when you guys.
Go ahead.
So, about 2 years ago, we had PSC&G come in, one of the public relations people, to talk about different items that were of comment at that point. Why don't we invite someone from PSC&G in for 15 minutes at a work session to talk about what their policy is, so we understand it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right?
And then
I mean,
we have a problem with the gentleman that basically needs to have the tree maintained, and nobody's coming to maintain the tree, and the tree is falling on his property.
First of all, you spew out comments without any basis of information.
He testified to that.
Well, he didn't testify, he got up and gave his opinion. Are you 100% sure that that tree was not a privately owned tree?
Yes, they did a survey, and there was
The survey proved that it was on the private property.
Right.
Okay, it was not what basically we were told.
Well, that's fine, but don't sit here and say that you know a fact when it's not a fact.
Okay, so was it on the?
Just in case you don't realize it, you can't believe everything you hear.
Well,
The markings for the survey are still there.
Anyway, I don't know where to start. Some people would say that I've already made as many mayor's remarks tonight as I need to. But the reality is what's gone on up to this point, and what's going to continue to go on is unfortunate. It serves neither the town well, or the PBA well, or the mayor and council. I can speak without fear of contradiction, that everybody up here wants our police department to be happy. Okay? Everybody up here wants to give our police department as much as we possibly can. We are burdened by you want to call it burden, we are limited by a 2% cap. Okay? And we are also limited by the fact that everybody talked about how wonderful the town is, which it is. Anybody that lives here doesn't have to be told that. But one of the complaints we often get are the property taxes are too high. And the long and the short of it is, this is part of property tax. So we have to balance the two. Salaries, benefits, the cost of doing business versus what it costs our residents to live here. Rest assured that we are prepared to move forward in good faith. We can't be told not to use a professional attorney. They use a professional attorney. Okay? We're going to do the best we can to resolve this. I fully intend to reach out to the head of the PBA and ask him to sit down, because I don't think it serves them well to walk out of here the way they did. You know, we were told that we're going to lose officers. Well, in this day and age, people are free to go wherever they want to go if they feel they can better themselves. We are convinced that our officers, our police department has a good deal here. Is it as good as they would like it to be? Absolutely not. We will do the best we can to make them happy. So I just wanted to let you know that there is no ill will on this board. We want to do what we can for them. And hopefully they'll meet us halfway. That's all we can ask.
David, what do you think about taking George's suggestion and have him, neutral?
Well, first of all,
and sit down and
it
talk?
doesn't sound like George is neutral.
No,
And second of all, we didn't even need George. We sat down as gentlemen and, we were talking and there was no reason to stop talking and we got blindsided by a grievance. And that's reality. Even they don't deny that. But then, to sit here and to complain about getting 3 zeros when that was the impact of their negotiations, no, we came into that negotiation prepared to give them a raise. And, they chose to go to an arbitrator and the arbitrator did not do well by them. It may happen again. We don't know. But we're willing to sit down with them and talk. I'm not closing my door. Hopefully, they'll meet us halfway, and if not, it's unfortunate, like I said, for the town.
I don't often speak during this portion, but I think it's important to note some of the comments that were made. Yes, there are things that are applicable to our police department in reference to having to have paid additional contribution towards pension, having to pay additional contribution towards health benefits. But I think it's important to note that those are not local decisions. Those are statewide laws that affect all municipal employees statewide. And I don't think it's fair to mischaracterize it as something that is germane only to our local PBA when it's all municipal employees have had to contribute more towards health insurance and more towards pension.
And all of our employees, our DPW people, the people that work at Borough Hall, all have the same issues. And they're not happy campers either.
Yes, but Peter, you can't say that. You cannot say that.
I think we
Because
go into a
they all got
subject of discussion that was not scheduled.
They all got raises. The Board of Education, look at their raises they got. So you can't say that. Don't go on arbitration. You can't say that.
We cannot discuss that.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
It's over.
No, it's over. There's nothing on the agenda.
You had a chance to